turn it over to Anne and Philip. They have some clips that they're going to show you and also talk a little bit about Not Evil, Just Wrong.
But we came into the film through the story of DDT, through the story of Rachel Carson, Silent Spring, and the success, basically the very first success of the environmental movement, which was with them demonizing DDT. Much in the way that they're now trying to demonize CO2. The stuff that's coming out of our mouths, the idea that that's somehow, a toxin, or a pollutant, or a toxic pollutant, as they like to say. Complete nonsense. But they did succeed, and they're very good at getting their message out. They're much better at getting their message out than we are. So they persuaded America that DDT was a problem. And DDT was a pesticide that had this miraculous second use. I don't know, do you all know the DDT story? Silent Spring, Rachel Carson? Yes, nodding. Not everyone nodding, but anyone who's not nodding. It is a huge human rights story. The thing that drives young people crazy is human rights. And this is a human rights issue. Global warming is a human rights issue. DDT is a human rights issue. It's like, what's the motivation of environmentalists? What makes them tick? What are they getting off on? And I think there's an awful lot of stuff that's going on with them. Mostly they don't like people. Mostly they don't like us. Mostly they think that we're the problem. They're not the problem, but we are. The rest of us are. Ordinary people are. And they think there's too many of us. It's also like cap and trade. Every time somebody says that to you, you must always make, oh, you're talking about the global warming tax. You're talking about the global warming tax. You're talking about the carbon tax. You're talking about the carbon tax. I mean, as the Democrats have said, and we've seen a lot of quotes this week from Democrats who've said, if the American people realised that it's a tax, it hasn't got a hope. I mean, you've seen those quotes. I mean, this cap and trade thing, don't accept it. We're not doing it. We're not talking that. That's their talk. So, you're talking about the global warming tax, you're talking about the global warming tax, you're talking about the global warming tax? Oh, well, guess what? We think the global warming tax is a really bad idea, and we think the American people won't accept the global warming tax. So, we're doing loads and loads of media, we're travelling around the country, we're on the go the whole time, talking to groups. I mean, this is going to be a grassroots thing. I mean, look at the tea parties. It's just extraordinary what happened there. People, if people have the message sent out to them in a very simple way, they're going to go nuts. But cap and trade, it's like, what does that mean? That's very complicated, And of course, they're using it for a very particular reason. They're making it like something like, well, that's way too complicated for me to understand. Well, guess what? Your energy costs are going to double. Is that what you want? Make it simple. Guess what? Your energy costs are going to double. They're going to take away coal out of the equation in America.
The factories are going to close.
All the factories are going to close. They're going to have great jobs in China and India. And they're going to win. They're going to win out. I mean, we went in this film. We go to Gent in Kentucky, where there's this huge, fantastic steel plant. That steel plant should have been in Spain. The mothership of that steel company was in Spain. They couldn't expand in Spain because Spain signed the Kyoto Agreement and they couldn't afford it. So we won, America won those jobs. But they're going to lose those jobs if Obama has his way. And I said this morning, the other thing I think about Obama and Michelle and all that, I think life has been, and all environmentalists and all those liberals, life has been so good to them. We often say this, how you know you're really, really rich is when your children come home and tell you that they're environmentalists. That's when you know, my God, honey, we've made it. We're obviously incredibly rich because our children are so disconnected from the world. Michelle Obama and Barack Obama are disconnected. They're disconnected from the world. Michelle Obama thinks of herself as a victim. Get over yourself, girlfriend. Life was so good to them. And by the way, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. They're very bright and intelligent. And they get up at 4:30 or 5, whatever. That's why she's got the great arms. But listen, they deserve it. But the idea that they're victims is complete nonsense. This is, and I just think they're disconnected. They're disconnected from where things come from. They're disconnected from the fact that when you plug a thing into the wall, they're disconnected from where that comes from. It comes from a coal plant. And it's great. And have you ever stood beside a coal plant in America? You can have a car running past it, a white car, and it will never get dark. It will never become a dirty car because already they've got all these environmental regulations. So it's anyway. That's
I'm all for. By the way, I'm all for being disconnected from where things come from. I don't really want to know where electricity comes from because I just want it to work. People say to us, have you followed Al Gore and his private jet and his carbon footprint? And I'm going, I want everyone in Africa to have a private jet. Please, Al Gore, keep a private jet, fly all over the world, just don't land. But don't stop people in Africa from having private jets and having cars and jobs and industry and industrialization and seeing their child's 5th birthday, which a lot of them aren't at the moment. Yeah. Yes.
You mentioned homeschoolers. I am one. I only own 2 guns. They're in my loft, not my basement. But I'm curious, what, if anything, you're doing to reach out to the homeschooling community? Are you going to have clips that would cater toward homeschool bloggers, for instance, or any techniques like that? Will you have this film shown in homeschooling networks.
We'd love that.
We'd love that.
If you have any suggestions about how to get in touch with homeschoolers, we would love to.
Yeah.
If there's a network of them, we really are very interested in homeschoolers because that's exactly why they're homeschooling the children, because their children will be forced to watch an inconvenient truth, and it's passing the science. They used to talk about global warming. They don't talk about global warming anymore. They talk about climate change, and Al Gore talks about the climate crisis. So they keep on changing the language, and you need to say to them, why are you changing the language? Let's keep with your language. Let's keep with global warming. And it hasn't warmed in 10 years. So why do you talk about that? I mean, most of this is about changing the way America lives and changing the way the world is. And this is what a lot of liberals want to do, and it's what a lot of environmentalists want to do. They don't like progress. They don't like industrialization. They think that the world would be better off without humans in it. And I think they need to be called on that. I think it's a very anti-human movement. They think badly of humans. They think that humans that we're polluters, that we destroy everything we touch. And they seem to have this romantic notion about nature, about things that are natural. And as I say to people, I don't want anything to do with natural. Cancer is natural. Anthrax is natural. What else is awful that's natural? Arsenic is natural. Like there's loads of cancer is natural. Tuberculosis is natural. We don't want anything to do with that. Here in America, people live into their 90s, and that's a marvellous thing. And you know why they do? It's because of electricity. Electricity makes you safe because you have things like a refrigerator, so your food is always very safe to eat. Not having electricity, not having a definite power supply is a real problem. If you really care about the environment, the best way to protect the environment is to get rich. That's the very best way to get very, 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 very rich, and you will have no problem with the environment. If you look at Africa, for example, if you look at somewhere like Madagascar, where they're cutting down the rainforest, people cut down the rainforest there because they're poor, and they need it for firewood. Make them rich, and they won't need to do that, and they'll protect the forest because they like to look at it, and they'll protect the seas because they like to look at that, and they like to play there. But that can only be achieved when people have achieved wealth, and they won't achieve wealth if they live in what environmentalists like to call in a traditional way, if they live in their mud huts. They won't get rich because they'll be sick all the time.
I promise you, the day will come.
We really are facing potentially ecological Armageddon.
It's a real threat, and it's coming. You go on the internet and check it out.
Basically, the problem is cars, coal, and buildings.
It's not going to be painless.
I think we need to freeze it.
I don't think it would be a bad thing for this Earth to warm up. In fact, ice is the enemy of life.
Al Gore gives the impression that sea level is going to rise by 20 feet in the very near future. Now, that is a very disturbing misstatement of the science.
20th century is certainly not the warmest in 1,000 years, and we also have scientific data to show this.
If the factory closed down, this area would die.
You're talking more about 7 million jobs in the United States.
That would bring civilization crashing down to its knees, and hundreds of millions of people would die.
We need industry. If there's going to be a generation to carry on after this one, we have to have it.
Al Gore needs to just go on about his business somewhere else.
A lot of environmental activists still have not come to accept that the humans are also part of the environment.
You're comparing birds with people. You'd rather save the birds and lose the people.
What do they want to go back to the Dark Ages and the Black Plague?
We're human beings. We all have a right to be here.
I cannot believe that Al Gore has great regard for people, real people.